Hi, my name is Miss Pam, and I'm from Building Blocks Child Development Center here in Spencer, West Virginia. And I have a book to read to you today and a project to do with you too. But we're going to talk a little bit before we start our project. We are going to talk about a different culture of people. Their names are Inuit, and they are from the northern section of the world. They live in Alaska and Canada, and they can even live in places like the Soviet Union and other Siberia and other places like that. They live in a very, very cold climate. So they're Aboriginal people. They're called First People, and again, their name is Inuit, and we're going to say Atilihai, and that is hello in Inuit. Okay? So, our book today is called Mama, Do You Love Me? I bet she does. Let's read a book. Mama, do you love me? Mama, do you love me? Yes, I do, dear one. How much? Now, do their clothes look like our clothes? No, they're different, but that's good. I love you more than the raven loves his treasure, more than the dog loves his tail, and more than the whale loves his spout. Ravens are very important in the Inuit culture, and so are the whales and their dogs. How long? I'll love you until the umiak flies into the darkness, till the stars turn to fish in the sky, and the puffin howls at the moon. And here they have on their coats, and they're called parkas, and they're in a boat. And if you look at this boat, see all the different stuff on this boat? That's because they made this boat by hand. And it's probably made out of wood, and the outside of it is probably made of animal skins. Mama, what if I carried our eggs, our ptarmigan eggs, and I tried to be careful, and I tried to walk slowly, but I fell, and the eggs broke? Then I would be sorry, but still I would love you. Now, a ptarmigan is a little bird that lives in the north. What if I put salmon in your parka, ermine in your mittens, and lemmings in your mukluks? Okay, this is the parka, and there's the salmon. And here the ermine, they're little tiny rodents. She's going to put those in her mittens. And lemmings in your mukluks. And there's the little lemmings. They're kind of like little mice. And her mukluk is another word for boots. Mama says, then I would be angry. What if I threw water at our lamp? Then, dear one, I would be very angry. But still, I would love you. And Mama looks like she's making a basket. And the lamp is very important because that's where they get their light. What if I ran away? Oh, then I would be worried. What if I stayed away and sang with the wolves and slept in a cave? Then, dear one, I would be very sad. But still, I would love you. And here is their sled, and it's getting pulled by a team of sled dogs. And this right here, in the snow cave, you've heard of snow caves before, haven't you? Called igloos. Now, Inuits use the igloos when they go hunting. They don't live in them all the time, most usually, but they make them to live in while they're out hunting on the ice in the Arctic. What if I turned into a muskox? Oh, then I would be surprised. What if I turned into a walrus? Then I would be surprised and a little scared. And you see the masks up here? These are Inuit masks. What if I turned into a polar bear and I was the meanest bear you ever saw? And I had sharp, shiny teeth and I chased you into your tent and you cried. Then I would be very surprised and very scared. But still, inside the bear, you would be you, and I would love you. I will love you forever and for always because you are my dear one. There's Mama holding her. The end. Alright, so then we learned some new words out of a different language that you may have never heard before. We have muklux, and we had parka, and the animals, the lemmings, and the ptarmigan. And those are all animals that you find in the Arctic. And you also find things like the Arctic fox, which does something really crazy. In the summer, the Arctic fox, he's brown. So he kind of blends into his environment called camouflage. And in the winter, he turns snow white. So he can blend in with all the snow. So I used to live in Alaska. And I have some friends that were Inuit. And I have some friends that were in all different kinds of cultures. So it's important to learn a little bit about other cultures. That way we learn a little bit more about our own. Okay, so we're going to make something, and it's kind of going to be something that was in our book. All right, first we have a cutout of a polar bear. Now this is just the outside of the polar bear, and what we have to do is we have to cut us out one. So what I have is I have my polar bear laid on a piece of heavier paper, just like that. There's my heavier paper on the back. So we're going to take our scissors, and our scissors, remember, our fingers go in the big hole, our thumb goes in the little hole, thumbs are up, and that way you have a good base for cutting. Now, and we're going to put our paper on there. Now you can see my line's clear over here, but my paper starts over here. So what we have to do is we just have to find a place and start cutting. And we're going to cut all the way to our line. And when we get our scissors on our line, then we're just going to cut like that. What am I going to do there? I got that little, and I don't know if I can turn my, well, I can turn my paper. Or you know what I can do? I can take my scissors and go off my line just a little bit. And then I can go back and snip that one little piece away. Alright, so here's our polar bear's ears. I'm going to roll my paper. Remember, I'm not moving my scissors. I'm moving my paper. Okay. Oh, and there's a polar bear's, probably his eye. And then we're going to go and we're going to cut it around his nose and his mouth. And then underneath his chin. And there's some hair. Move my paper again. If it's hard to get in there, see, I can't get, what am I going to do? Well, you know what I can do? Since I'm going to throw this part away, I can just cut that off. And see, it's not in my way anymore. And that's okay. See, I've still got my polar bear. I can cut that piece off and get it completely out of my way. Okay, so now I can get in there and I can make it easier to turn my paper. So remember, we're turning paper, not turning scissors. It makes it easier. And what if oh no, look at that. I made a mistake. I cut his little toes off. Should I just throw it away, you think? Nah, I think I'm just going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on turning my paper. It's okay to have a little bit of a mess up every once in a while, a mistake. It's okay. Oh, sometimes you got to turn it around in there. And remember, if that piece of paper is in your way and you don't need it, you can just cut it off. We're turning our paper. Almost got it all cut out. Now remember, it's much easier to turn your paper. You got to hold your scissors in this hand, and it's going to hold everything together. It's not going to go nowhere. And then you're going to turn with this hand, and that makes it so much easier than trying to turn your hand around like that and cut. No, we're just going to turn our paper and make it so much easier. Now, if you have a hard time cutting, you can always ask your adult to see if they'll help you cut it out. So, remember we had this piece of paper, and underneath it we had that piece of paper. And look at there, we have another polar bear. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get another piece of paper. Now you see these pieces of paper, they have this thing on here. That's because they're actually things that go in a notebook. But I like to recycle, and I have them. Instead of buying more paper, I just use what I have. And that way, I'm helping our environment. And the reason we need to help our environment is because these little polar bears right here, well, when the world gets warmer, and the ice that the polar bears live on melt, then they don't have a home. So we need to be careful. So we're going to flip our polar bear over, and we're going to take some tape, and we're going to put some tape on the back of our polar bear. Now why do you think we're putting tape on the back of the polar bear? Well, we're going to use this polar bear as a stencil. So we're going to roll your tape up a little bit and stick it. Piece on its head, piece on its feet so his feet stay still. No, it's stuck to my thumb. There we go. I'll put some down there. We gotta make sure that your tape is on your paper so it doesn't show on the other side. It's kind of hard to see when we have this white paper and the white tape, but it'll all make sense in a minute, okay? So I've got my last piece of tape here. And I'll put it down here on my paws to keep my paws straight. Okay, so now we're going to turn it over, and we're going to stick it to the other piece of white paper. Can you see our polar bear? A little bit. See the edges of him. So now we're going to paint. So what I have is, I have a half of a piece of paper plate. And I use a half a piece because, you know, I can save the other half and do another art project later. We'll move my paper out here for just a minute. And then I have some paint. I have some white paint. And then we're going to put a little teeny tiny bit of blue in our paint. Just a little tiny bit. And now I have a piece of sponge. Now this is real sponge, okay? It come out of the ocean. But if you don't have some of that, you can take a kitchen sponge like this one and just cut it up. This was a great big sponge, and we'll cut it up into some little pieces so we could use it. And then we wash them out, and we can use them again. So, we're going to take our paint with our little bit of blue in it, and we're going to mix. Just like that. And look at that, I have a really light color blue. Okay? So I'm going to take my light color blue, and I'm just going to go around my polar bear a little bit. Everywhere on my paper. All the way around my polar bear. Alright. Now, I want some darker colors. So, I'm going to take that paint right there, and you know what I'm going to do? we'll add more blue into it. We're going to take our paint, our sponge, and we're going to mix it up again. You see how it's different? This is a lighter blue. Now this is a darker blue. Okay, and that's when I put my finger in it. So, mix, 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 mix. And we're going to go back to our paper, and we're going to go right around our polar bear. All the way around our polar bear. Do you see our polar bear? It's getting all mixed in. Kind of hard to see where the polar bear ends and the paper begins. All the way around our polar bear. Doesn't look much like a polar bear, does it? It will in a minute. So I'm going to take that paint again, and you know what I'm going to do? You guessed it. I'm going to add some more blue paint right there on the end. So we'll take our sponge, same thing, mix it in. So here I have my light blue, and I had like a blue in the middle, and now I have some darker blue. So I've got my darker blue, go back to my paper, and right around my polar bear again. Oops, I may have got some paint on the other piece of paper. We may have to replace this piece of paper when we get done, because I think I got some paint on it. It's a good thing it's just a piece of paper. Alright, so there. We went all the way around our polar bear with a light blue, a medium blue, and then the dark blue. But I don't see a polar bear. Do you see a polar bear? Well, what would you think if I said that we're not quite done yet? Wiping off my fingers just a little bit so then I can get a hold of it and not mess it up. All right, so now you might want to wait until your polar bear gets completely dry, but I can't wait that long. I'm kind of impatient. I want to see what's going on right now. So are you ready? Get a hold of it right here, and we're going to peel it off really easily. Now remember, you got some tape under there, and your tape, you got to pull really easy on your tape so you don't tear your project up. Now it pulls a little bit off your paper. Well, that happens sometimes. We're just going to be really easy, and we're going to pull our piece of our polar bear off the paper below it. And mine's sticking a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to peel it off there really easily. And guess what we have underneath? Ooh, last little bit. We have our polar bear. And I got a little piece of tape right there. We'll take that off real easy. Alright, so, and there you have it. And that's called process art. We didn't paint a polar bear. We painted around the polar bear. And there you go. Now you have a beautiful polar bear. Now you don't have to do just polar bears. You can do all kinds of things. And if you didn't want a completely white polar bear, you could go through and you could add some eyes, and you could put some details, and you could go around him with a black marker. And interesting fact about polar bears. So, did you know that polar bears are not white? Polar bear's skin is actually black. And the reason his skin is black is because he needs some heat and some vitamin D from that sun. And he is a very big animal, and he is in a very, very cold place. So his skin is black, so he can absorb more of the sun's heat. Now, and his hair, you're never going to believe this. His hair's not white either. His hair is actually clear. And it's kind of like little straws. Teeny tiny, itty bitty, teeny tiny baby straws. And what happens is the little baby straws, they're all really, really close together. The heat gets in between those little straws, and it gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And that is how he stays nice and warm. That, and he has a pretty good coat of blubber underneath his coat. And that helps keep him warm too. But he really, really needs that dark skin to absorb as much sunlight, heat from the sun, and vitamin D from the sun that he can. So, and those clear hairs that when they get all together they look like they're white hairs, that helps him too. So, polar bears are very important to our environment, and they're very important to the Inuit people. And Inuit people actually eat polar bears. Kind of like some people eat bears around here. So the polar bear is very important, and it's very important to our world. So we got to make sure that we recycle, and we just use as much of something as we actually really need. Because see my paper over here? I didn't need that much, did I? I didn't need a whole plate. So we use only what we have to use, and that way we keep our environment much cleaner. Now it looks like I got a big mess, but you know what? I can put all my paper in the recycle bin, and I can reuse my sponges, and well, I may need my paper towel for a little bit later for another project. So, well, that's it for me today. I am going to clean up my mess, and I'll see you next time. Bye.